right now in the political sphere, which is basically to wage war, is also definitely not working for us. What we do right now is not only essentially the opposite of forging meaningful dialogue, but it is precisely what we do with equally catastrophic results in the realm of criminal justice. In each case, we imagine those who threaten us, whether the criminal or our political enemy, as if he or she were one large, abstract, irrational nightmare, a mass of evil that needs to be isolated, contained, dominated, and destroyed. I have seen and heard this pattern of thinking about politics for as long as I've been alive. And yet in the past several years, I have had the experience over and over again of getting to know people who belong to groups that I had long since learned to fear and avoid, but whom I found rational and compassionate. I have now had this experience with prisoners, correctional officers, prison administrators, evangelical Christians, and even, most recently, Republicans, I swear to God. None of this is to say that every member of each of these groups is someone with whom I might be able to work well. But remember, the same could be said of all the various social, cultural, and political groups with which I identify. And beyond this, I would suggest that what keeps us apart is not so much the vast differences between us, as it is the social pressure that we inflict upon ourselves and each other not to get too close to the other, not to commingle, lest we might become contaminated or even indistinguishable. I often have a feeling while doing this work of reaching out to people I'm talking about and building bridges and finding common ground, which is sort of like the one you have when you find a missing puzzle piece under the couch, or when you fix a pipe and then turn the water back on and it doesn't drip, or when you take the drop cloths off of pieces of furniture after you finish painting a room and push the furniture back to where it was. It's not the sense that you're creating something new or original as much as the sense that you're repairing something that's broken or restoring it back to its original condition. I cannot express strongly enough how I have this feeling when it comes to facilitating dialogue between traditionally alienated groups. I don't fully understand what happened, but these lines of communication were not meant to be broken. But this is not just about a feeling of something being right or even a feeling of satisfaction. Rather, the message I hope to convey is that, again, we will not solve either our criminal justice crisis or the overwhelmingly complex and urgent societal problems that lie at the heart of that crisis unless we start to defy the barriers which are constantly being built up between us, largely in the name of our identities. The fact is that we can no longer afford to stay among ourselves, to stay within our social and political comfort zones, and to avoid what we might perceive to be the personal discomfort or even risks associated with crossing these sorts of lines. We have got to broaden the scope of our search for political allies whom we trust and respect, and find ways both to be true to ourselves, to tell the truth, no matter who we're talking to, and to work together to locate that common political ground. And just to close, one more very short story. A couple of years ago, I got a call from a man who was the pastor of a church in a little town in California that I'd never heard of. I don't even remember the name. He called because a couple in his congregation had a son at San Quentin who was in our program, and they were very worried about him. He'd written to them asking that they send money for reasons that didn't sound plausible to them. This pastor was calling me on their behalf to ask me for advice. How do you help someone with drug debts in prison? We talked about this situation for a long time and came up with some ideas, and at the end, I thanked him for having contacted me. He said something in response that has stuck in my mind for a very long time. He said, it's in Hebrews chapter 12. Remember those in chains as if they were bound to you. I never would have thought I'd live to see the day that I, a non-believing Jewish girl from New York, would quote the Bible in a lecture, but I can find no better way either to express or to model what I'm calling on all of us to do today. Step across those lines, and above all, remember every person in prison as if they were bound to you. Thank you very much.
I can't understand why you were nervous in front of this group when you can walk comfortably across the yard in San Quentin.
Different things scare different people.
and anyway, she gracefully agreed to answer questions, and perhaps, given the context of her speech, we should give any Republicans in the House the first opportunity.
And it doesn't have to be a question, it can be a comment too. Anybody?
You mentioned there were 170,000 prisoners. How many people make their living supporting the prison system?
When you say supporting,
They make the majority of their income from working in the system.
CDC has what, 50,000 employees?
Is it 500,000?
I have trouble with the implication that they're profiting or that they're exploiting the prisoners by working for the department, but my understanding is CDC has about 50,000 employees, something around that.
So that's the direct population.
I believe so. Yeah.
So one for every 3 prisoners.
I owe you my life, Jody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rodney.
Jody, I'm just wondering what your vision is for the future of this program.
We were just talking about that at a board meeting yesterday. Well, like I sort of said when I was talking in the video, the real vision is changing the whole system and the whole society, but for this program, I would love to expand it. We need space. So I guess the short answer is we get more classrooms somehow, and boy, what a pain in the neck I'm making of myself right now trying to get more classrooms at San Quentin. And we expand the program and we double or triple the number of people we're serving, and it rivals UC. But eventually I would love to see us also start up programs in other prisons. Matt?
Yeah, I've just really been influenced and impacted in a really big way of volunteering, as the other volunteers can say, at San Quentin. There's so many elements that are going against having a class actually take place every day. And it's really amazing to see what you and Jennifer are doing, on an ongoing basis. Sort of these, the forces are there every single day, and so it's just taught me a lot about persistence, patience, and dedication. Thanks.
So Matt teaches theater improvisation at San Quentin, and you just can't imagine all these badasses acting so goofy and having such fun and laughing so hard. It's unbelievable, and to listen to them talk about his class is awesome. I'm sorry, I just had to say that, Matt. Anybody else? Yeah, David.
I will say, I'm a former student of the program in San Quentin, and I think that so much happens in there, in the college program, that goes beyond the actual learning experience. I came out of prison about 3.5 years ago, and I do full-time clinical work as a substance abuse counselor now, and one of the main goals that we have for people in recovery is mainstream activities, whether it be education or employment, and things like that. I think that 80% of the people that you meet in prison, either directly or indirectly, are there because of substance abuse issues. And the opportunity to begin mainstream education while in prison really helps facilitate a smooth transition into that process when they are released from prison. So I think it's important to recognize that what takes place in the college education program at San Quentin goes so much further beyond the education experience itself.
Yeah. We were talking at that meeting the other day about, or yesterday, I was trying to communicate how education can impact relapse rate. And I thought, the people